Off of Favors pick. Bounces to Derek. Free throw line jumper. Boom! Oh, are they good right now?
Well, I tell you, this offense is looking smooth.
This is Gordon Hayward. We are ready to tip it off. Are you? Let's do this.
Our sample size is 3, and it continues to be very good. We'll look at the number 20. We'll look at the number 31, and we'll look at the number 8, plus the NBA 5. It's all coming up on today's edition of Tip Off. Hope you're well. I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. So great to have you with us. Whenever you might be listening, wherever you might be tuned in, thank you very much. You can subscribe to this podcast. We do it every day at Locked On Jazz on iTunes or on Stitcher or whatever app it is that you use. And if you get a chance to give us a review, it really matters a great deal in how we're placed, how we're treated, and how we are perceived. So thank you very much. If you take a quick moment to do that, it is greatly appreciated if you take the time to give us and preferably, by the way, a good review. That's really kind of what I'm asking for, is a good review. So we certainly appreciate that very, very much if you could take the time to do that. Unfortunately, it looks as though Google has erased all of my little bottom line things, and I can't get that one to work anymore. So who knows what's happened with Google there. If you're new to the program, I'm David Locke. I do the radio play-by-play for the Utah Jazz, and then I also do this and some other things, so I'm a Jazz NBA insider. And what we do is we give you 5 minutes of around the NBA news, and then we dig deep on the Utah Jazz each and every day. So let's do that. We also used to give you the Daily DeVar. We will bring the Daily DeVar back. It's the happy thing of the day for everyone. So let's do that right now and hit the NBA 5. Interesting notes around the box scores. Aaron Gordon, another kind of 9.7 rebound, 1 assist, but just 2 of 9 shooting, so not surprised there. Elfrid Payton, the other rookie there, 14 points, but on 6 of 15 shooting, and he had 5 turnovers yesterday. Bradley Beal's out a little while for Washington. Injuries are going to be vital on all of this. But the one player that really has impacted as much as anyone is John Wall. John Wall's shooting was 10 percentage points less good last year at the rim when Bradley Beal was out of the game, and 10 percentage less good from behind the three-point arc when Bradley Beal was out of games. It's interesting to Beal's impact, and I think there's 2 things. One is that Beal can handle enough so John Wall could go to the corners. When Bradley Beal doesn't play, John Wall gets no corner threes, has to shoot his threes from up above. He's not nearly as good. And the second thing is the floor spacing with Bradley Beal allows for John Wall to be able to get down to the paint with more ease. So that's a huge loss to have Beal out. Elsewhere in the Eastern Conference, the Knicks last night were minus 22 in 15 minutes of action of Amari Stoudemire. Minus 22 in Amari Stoudemire's 15 minutes of action. The Chicago Bulls rookies were good again yesterday. McDermott had 16 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists on 5 of 8 shooting, and Mirotic 12 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 steals on 5-11 shooting. Hit just 1 of 5 from 3 and was not good from the free throw line. I'm one who thinks Phoenix is going to struggle a little bit this year. Really, the loss of Channing Frye. They were 109 points per 100 possessions offensively when he was on the floor, and 101 points when he was off the floor, which is, by the way, the exact same difference Oklahoma City is with and without Kevin Durant, to give you the impact that Channing Frye had on the Suns. Anthony Tolliver is the replacement, and last night they were minus 15 when Anthony Tolliver was on the floor and plus 12 when he was off the floor. He does not seem to be bringing the same impact that is taking place when you have Channing Frye on the floor for the Suns. Is there a preseason game worth watching? Maybe. It would take place tonight in Milwaukee as Giannis Antetokounmpo will, at 6'11", will start at point guard for Jason Kidd's Milwaukee Bucks tonight. See how that works out for them. Jabari Parker also having a little bit of a rough preseason so far. Who's the 4th best team in the Western Conference? That's an interesting question. You look at it right now, you got the Warriors, the Rockets, the Blazers, the Mavericks, and the Grizzlies, the likely 5 playoff teams, unless the Pelicans, Suns, or Nuggets can knock one of them out. Who's the 4th best? I think it's going to be an interesting battle all season long. The Rockets look pretty darn good throughout training camp, and as much as everyone likes to talk about the loss of Chandler Parsons, you know what? The replacement of Trevor Ariza is not a big drop, and James Harden and Dwight Howard are still 2 of the top 10 players in the NBA. I think the Rockets are being undersold a little bit. The only problem I see with the Rockets is if Patrick Beverley gets hurt, there's no backup involved there. The Warriors, obviously against the Lakers the other night, looked absolutely brilliant. Is Steve Kerr that big an upgrade over Mark Jackson. He makes a difference. The Blazers so incredibly healthy last year. I have a hard time believing that they could match that healthiness. If you didn't hear it, the Blazers last year had the second longest streak of any team ever starting the year with the same starting lineup. They also had 4 of their 5 starters start 82 games last year. In the league where only 10 guys started 82 games. Can't imagine that's going to happen. The Mavericks have made all these little subtle upgrades, and with the respect everyone has for Rick Carlisle, people there. And the forgotten team is the Memphis Grizzlies with Marc Gasol. When Gasol was out last year, the Grizzlies were 500, but if Gasol can stay healthy for an entire year, maybe they're that team. The Lakers the other night took 3 3-pointers and no corner threes, and Byron Scott the day before had said that he wants his team to shoot 10 to 15 threes a game. Honestly, I might fire my coach if my team in the preseason took 3 threes and no corner threes. You have to seriously wonder, if you're the Lakers, what you just hired. Did you interview him? Did you ask questions? Did you not realize that he didn't know what was going on in the NBA? Did you realize he couldn't add or subtract or figure out that 3 is worth more than 2? It's stunning to me what's going on with the Lakers and Byron Scott. He's always been questionable what people thought of him as a head coach, and he's putting huge doubt in it right now. It's probably overplayed because things are never as bad as they look or never as good as they look. But the fact that that team took 3 threes in an entire game in a 40-point blowout and Byron Scott wasn't bothered by it afterwards would really be a red flag to me if I was an NBA fan. That, my friends, is the NBA 5.
Hey, this is Dante Exum. I want to hear from you. Call 801-200-3738 and ask me a question. That is 801-200-3738 to ask me a question.
Another very strong performance by the Utah Jazz. They beat the Clippers yesterday to go 3-0 in the preseason. This one may be more than any other in the whole picture. You have to say, okay, it really is preseason, because there was a reality check third quarter in this one where the Clippers were plus 10. The Clippers starters, which are the best starting 5 in the NBA probably, were positive for the night. And so the Jazz did feast a little bit on a second unit that didn't have Matt Barnes, that didn't have Jamal Crawford. However, there's still just great signs, if you're a Jazz fan, of what's taking place here. First off, and moreover than anything else, the continued fabulous effort to do the right thing, to play the game the way that Quinn Snyder wants them. These guys have completely bought into what Quinn's trying to do and how he's trying to play and what he's trying to do with the team, the playing with the pass, the 31 assists on 40 field goals last night by the Utah Jazz. You're seeing that evident, pushing the ball, bringing the ball up the wings, pushing the ball ahead. You saw that numerous times. There were numerous examples, more to me actually, last night's game, of exactly what Quinn Snyder wants out of this team, how he wants them to play, and what he wants to see from them. And to me, that's the most exciting aspect if you're a Jazz fan. There's a transformation taking place in what Quinn is trying to get these guys to do, and they're doing it. They have bought in, they're putting in the effort, and you are seeing, more than that, how it's going to benefit players, how it's going to work well. There's times when our talent level is just not going to be enough against opponents as good as somebody like the LA Clippers, and our youth on the bench is going to be a real problem. But you can see them trying to play the right way. You can see the system benefiting the guys, and to me, that's really the exciting aspect of what you want right now. There were some, and I think you're seeing it most in Trey and Derek, and frankly, Gordon was really good last night, and I think we have to make sure that we don't forget nights like last night for Gordon Hayward. It's pretty easy to just be like, yeah, whatever. He had 10 points and 6 rebounds and 3 assists, and he really didn't. And he didn't have highlight plays or seem to have an enormous impact on a lot of things. But then you go look at it for a second, and he had played 26 minutes. So if he plays his regular 35 minutes last night, he suddenly has 16 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 or 7 assists. All right, that's a hell of a night. On 4 of 8 shooting and 2 of 3 from 3, and he's been hitting his shots in preseason, which is probably one of the singularly most important things that could take place in the preseason. But really, Trey Burke and Derek Favors have linked 3 very good games together. And talking to Derek yesterday before shoot-around, I think it was before shoot-around, he's excited about what's taking place. And the comment he made was, boy, if Ennis can bury this 3, do you realize what it does for me? And it's true. If they're all feeling spacing in a way that they've never felt it before, and they're beginning to understand it, and they spaced at times pretty well last night. And so Derek's saying, hey, wait a sec, if Ennis can bring him out and hit a few of those, well, wow, that's going to be a really big deal for me in the room I get and he's probably right. I mean, he probably becomes an 18 and 10 guy at that point. Then he's a pretty big time player. Last night he was 15 and 11 in 24 minutes. Again, not always against top guys, but he outplayed DeAndre Jordan. His defense was really good again. His rebound screen outs were just fabulous. And obviously these are fresh, you know. And I think this is where Derek playing 400 more minutes than he's ever played before, maybe with 700, and Hayward 400, and Alec 1,000, and Cantor 1,200 more minutes. That's where the impact of that's going to show up. That we've seen these runs before by Derek where he's a really rebounding and forceful player, and then it just peters out because he's tired. I don't think he's going to be as tired this year. I think he's been through this, and he learns how to do it. That's what the value of last season was for these guys. Rudy Gobert, 20 rebounds last night. Everyone's talking about the wingspan. I want to talk about the reach. He's a 9'7" reach, and there's numerous times where you can see him just outreach guys for the rebound. And the work of Mark McCowan and Isaiah, now known as Zeke, the strength and conditioning coach, to get his body. There were plays last night he simply couldn't have made 12 months ago. And frankly couldn't have probably made 6 months ago. There was one where he kept the rebound alive amongst 4 LA Clippers, and he's getting body bumped, and he's getting jostled, and he's holding his ground and taps it around and controls it. A year ago, he's either on the ground or he's out of the play because he got bumped. The strength change that Rudy Gobert is having is leading to this rebounding. I don't care if that's preseason or not. That's 20 rebounds. That's big time. He, as I've said all year long, he is going to demand playing time from Quinn Snyder. He's going to demand to be on the floor, and the question is going to be how long he allows himself to stay on the floor. Does that make sense? Let me say it again. He is going to demand playing time, and the question is going to be how long does he keep himself on the floor. He's going to dictate it. When he has nights like last night, he's going to play. And last night, I've said this, there's going to be nights where Enes Kanter plays 12 minutes this year, maybe 14. If Enes is not having, and I don't think Enes was bad last night. Don't misunderstand. He played 19. He had 3 assists. I love that. But with Trevor Booker, who you're seeing what he can do, and with Rudy Gobert, if they're having nights and Enes is not, there's going to be nights where this happens. The biggest number on Rudy last night is 22 minutes, 1 foul. Okay, the biggest number on Rudy last night is 20 rebounds. Who are we kidding? 20 rebounds. I was actually going to sit here and decide that we were going to go watch all 20. We should really do it. And you can just see, if you watch the 20 rebounds, how the strength difference that he has suddenly had. Well, here, let's take a minute and watch a few of them. I had decided we were going to do this, and then I kind of copped out, so now I'm going to decide we're going to do it again. The screen is not the best on this, but so let me click over it, and you will get it here in a second.
Falling. This time it's off the hand of Booker from Clemson.
And I got to mute those guys somehow.
Jazz are red hot from behind the arc right now.
Here's our boys.
Chris Paul searches inside.
Okay, there's just a simple go and get it. But look at that. He affects the shot and still gets the rebound.
This time it's off the hand of Booker from Clemson.
And this is not working for those of you on audio, so don't worry, we're not watching all 20.
Red hot from behind the arc right now.
6 of 8.
Here's another.
Paul searches inside.
Boom. Oh, that's the same one again. That wasn't good. So anyway, I'm going to skip to the next ones, and just because I can't mute the volume of Craig and the guys and be able to go talk through it is probably enough. I don't. The play clipper on this, or the plays, is not always the best thing. I'll do an analysis of it actually today and put it up on the site for you and look at him. But what you'd see is the amount of times he's able to affect the shot and still able to get the rebound and get jostled and get it. It's terrific to see. He's playing with such tenacity and such energy. It's fabulous. I was listening to Zach Lowe podcast with Frank Vogel yesterday, and Frank Vogel was talking about Roy Hibbert, which I've said I really think that Rudy Gobert can be a DeAndre Jordan, Tyson Chandler, Roy Hibbert type. And I thought it was interesting what Vogel said. Everyone wants to beat up on Hibbert for his lack of rebounding, which doesn't seem to be a Rudy issue, and for his lack of offense. And Vogel's like, we're the number 1 defensive team in the league. If he's the number 1 rim protector in the league, we're the number 1 defensive team. As long as he's on the floor, that's the case. It's a great point. And that's where we got to be with Rudy. there's an issue where offensively, and I thought he was better last night of holding his own, and having a positive impact, and keeping guys with him, and being in the right spot. And he's got a huge development that's got to take place there offensively, where he doesn't prohibit this team from being able to play with spacing and do the right things in all of those areas. But I think that when you're what he does do, obviously, is he rim protects. And building off the Vogel concept of things, what Vogel said last night, which I thought was interesting, or in that podcast also, is, hey, our defense, he was asked about analytics, and he says, we have built a defensive scheme that takes away the rim shots, that takes away free throw attempts, and it takes away predominantly the corner three. So that's and those are the most efficient things. And Roy Hibbert's at the crux and the key of that. Can Rudy Gobert be at the crux and the key for the Jazz? Now let's look at last night, and let's take a look at what the Clippers did. They went to the free throw line 22 times last night, which is probably a little higher than you'd like. And if we get down to just the basic zones, last night at the rim they were 15 of 25 for 60%. Well, they're the Clippers. They're with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and all those guys. That's really one of the best crews in the NBA at being able to do those kind of things. They took 81 shots though. So if you're holding 81 of their 25 shots to the rim, you're holding them down to 31% of their shots at the rim. It's not a brilliant performance, but it's pretty good. How about corner threes? Didn't allow a single corner three last night out of the LA Clippers. Pretty good defense. That's the beginning. Quinn's on this. I mean, this is reduce the free throws, reduce the rim shots, and corner three. And I'm going to build on this. We'll look at this each and every game, and we'll have some base. Now, I haven't built the shot location numbers on. I have a spreadsheet. I'll just have to update it on shot locations in which it tells me the percentage of where every shot is, and I don't have that handy right now. But that's, if we have that shot location number, then what I can tell you is basically what is the percentage that team regularly average, what is it that team, the league average is, and how did we deal in regards to those things. And when we have that, then that will really help out taking a look at, well, what does 25 shots mean along the way? What does that really mean? The percentage of shots in the NBA last year, of course I pulled it up while we were talking, in the restricted area was 33% of shots were in the restricted area last night. So when you go to last night and you take the 31% by the Clippers, you're doing a pretty good job in that regard last night, because that's what the league average was. Actually, the league average last year was 34% of shots were taken in the restricted area, and the Jazz were able to hold it last night below that against a high-level rim team. Okay, corner threes last year, 7% of shots were taken from corner threes, and obviously last night the Jazz allowed 3 out of 81. Now, Matt Barnes didn't play, but the Jazz held the opponent down to 3% of their shots being corner threes last night, which is terrific. And if you want to look at overall threes last night, the Jazz only allowed 18 and only 5 of 18 shooting, but only 22% of the shots were threes last night, which is actually pretty close. League average last year was about 24%. So everything was kind of against a very good number one offensive team in the league last year. Everything was in line of where the numbers are. Those numbers, again, and I'll continually reference these for us throughout the year and make sure that we keep that as our benchmark. But 34% of shots were at the rim last year. 7% of shots were corner threes. And finally, another 17.4% actually comes out to 25% of all shots were threes. So the Jazz last night just schematically kept the Clippers out of getting shots that you want them to, which is, it's an enormous step forward in the right direction of where Quinn is, what this team's trying to do, and it's where Gobert has awesome value. Is, to Frank Vogel's point of, we've been able to build a defensive scheme, and if you have Rudy there, it's just terrific. Rodney and Dante got an education. They're going to get it all year. And I think we kind of dealt with this last year. I mentioned this. We got to be careful about one-game sample sizes and all those kind of things where we get so overly excited or disappointed. Hey, 8 turnovers is a lot, but I'll say this again and again and again. I don't know who Tony and Scott and Nigel and Niall and Billy are that are on the bottom of our hangout today, but I'm guessing that the 4 of them at 16 years old are very similar to the 4 teammates that Dante Exum had in Australian high school basketball. Dante Exum has been playing Australian high school basketball, a limited international stuff, and burst on the scenes at the Nike Hoop Summit a year ago. You can see the flash. You can see the talent. He hit the shots last night, which is great. He's working hard on it. Once he starts to hit that 3 and they have to come out on him, boom, he's going to kill people. But he's going to turn the ball over. He over dribbles. He gets in trouble, and he's going to fix this. Turnovers are fine. Don't worry about turnovers in Dante Exum. They're just inexperience. He's got to get a better handle. These are all things he'll work on. He's got to get stronger so when he gets jostled, he's fine. Fine. Look at how much better Trey Burke looks this year. Rodney Hood is going to have to figure out how to guard a guy like J.J. Redick. And last night, that was a hard, difficult task for him. He hit his shots, did some fabulous things, but that is a difficult task. To guard a guy running around screens like that, and he had a tough time. You saw Dante Jones come in the game, and on the next play, Dante Jones did a fabulous job. Nice to see Ian Clark continue. He was really having a pretty decent camp, and then he got hurt, and he played well last night. And he may have a role on this team. If Dante struggles, and you just have nights where you got to get Dante off the floor because Chris Paul, it's unfair. Ian could take that role a little bit. Dante Jones has done a nice job of taking advantage of the Carrick Felix injury and the Ian Clark injury and showing his value. Maybe in that rotation might make this team. Though if he makes this team, someone who's guaranteed money probably doesn't. Maybe not. I mean, but you maybe carry another extra wing, but or you take somebody like Toure and put Toure at Idaho, move him down to Idaho and let him play there to try to develop some of his skills. I'm not sure, but the math gets funky. It's going to get interesting. All right, ton of questions, so let's go to them. Kirk Stout, the other mention you thought Rudy and Trey's rookie class would have 4 starters in 5 years. Who do you think those will be? I said that was like best case, right? And so you're going to take a comment I made off the top of my head. I also said I thought that rookie class could have 0 starters, by the way. I want to point that out, too. I think that class is really unknown. So who do I think in the 2013 draft class, I'm pulling up the 2013 draft class will start. I think Victor Oladipo will be an NBA starter. I don't know anything about Nerlens Noel. Trey Burke, I think, has a chance to be an NBA starter. Not sure on C.J. McCollum yet. Michael Carter-Williams obviously has a chance to be an NBA starter, but both he and Trey have got to shoot better. Steven Adams, I think, will be an NBA starter, so that's 4. I got it. Antetokounmpo, no question, will be an NBA starter, so that's 5. Gorgie Dang looks pretty good. He might be an NBA starter. That's 6. I probably should have this number higher. And Rudy Gobert, if he makes it. Any second-round draft picks? No. Ryan Kelly's not a player. He's not a starter. So Oladipo, I think, but I think that's even a funky one. What position does he play? But he's just, I think he, I don't love him. People like Cody Zeller. I'm not in the camp. I don't like Ben McLemore. I don't like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope as a starter. Projecting him as a starter. So those are the 6 guys that have a potential, and so I was really kind of rounding up, right? So 6 guys have a potential. They're not all going to be starters. So now I'm at 4. It's a pretty bad draft class. We'll see if it's true. I could be totally wrong, right? Woohoo Phelps. Is that, or is it actually real? Were you trying to create something there, or is that actually woo-how? How did we get Gobert late in the first round? What are the concerns at other teams that let him drop as far as he did in the draft? He had our scouts had seen him. He had an amazing workout with us. I was in there for that. I remember I talked to Ty Corbin afterwards. And there were still times when, Rudy was a tough call. And to our credit, remember the story is we went and bought a pick from Denver, the first time ever in franchise history, and went and bought the pick to go get him. So we definitely zeroed in on him, want to make sure. And I think there's a chance, if you recall that draft, if you go back and look at that draft, we had the 14th and the 22nd pick. Had we not pulled off the trade for Trey Burke to get the 9th pick with Kelly Olynyk going 13 to Boston trading up, they wanted Olynyk. I think there's a decent chance the Jazz could have taken Gobert at 14. I don't know. They were not big on Schroeder. They were not big on Larkin. I don't think they were big on Gorgie Deng. He got killed by Rudy Gobert in the workout, so that probably hurt him. I don't think they had another guy. I think there was a real chance if that draft had fallen to the draft the way they had planned on it before the Kelly Olynyk deal, I think the Jazz were going to actually draft 2 bigs. I remember, believe it or not, with Favors in Canada, there was a chance of drafting 2 bigs, and they were going to be Olynyk and Gobert. I think there was a real chance of that. Olynyk is the stretch 4 that they desperately wanted, and Gobert from there. So I think the Jazz did their work. They saw him. He had a great workout. There were concerns on his mobility, which he's really worked on. There was concerns on his strength, and the French league he plays in wasn't very good. But he wasn't shrinking, and that 9-7 reach is just mind-boggling. With so much money available in 2016, do you see good international players coming over and filling the back end of middle of rosters instead of some of D-League players that fill it now? Do you think this could raise the overall level of league play? That's really a great question. I don't know the answer to that, Chris. That's a great question. Well, so teams are under the cap, so everyone has cap space and they're able to pay. Yeah, maybe. It's an interesting question. It's a really, that player is gone from the league right now, right? It's very hard to kind of add. There was a lot of discussion. I think Zach had a whole thing on that this year. Kevin Pelton's done a bunch of stuff on that this year. It's hard to get that guy right now to either stay here because he gets more money in Europe, or there's definitely a level of player that's in Europe that could play in the NBA that's getting more. Wu Hao is your real name. Wu Hao Phelps. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much. Sorry, I didn't mean that. I hope that didn't come off rudely. I actually first read it and thought you were fired up about the Jazz or something. I'm calling Phelps the biggest Jazz fan. I looks like Hood was. There's no rule here. You have to have your real name, obviously. Actually, maybe on Google Plus there is. It looks like Hood was having a hard time guarding J.J. Redick. What do you think about his overall defense? Well, guarding J.J. Redick is hard. First NBA game is hard. There is a concern that he's a little tall for a shooting guard, so it's hard to guard shooting guards. He had to play 2 last night instead of 3. If he's guarding Matt Barnes, he wouldn't have had nearly as hard a time. J.J. Redick's probably one of the best screen runners in the NBA at this point, so that's a tough matchup. And I think that he is not as I don't think defense is a strength. One of the reasons he slipped defensively is people question his athleticism and whether he's going to be a very good defensive player. Chris Harvey, Rudy altered so many shots last night to floaters that missed high off the backboard, layups that were rushed, that kind of thing. So much fun to see opposing players panic when they realize he's in the area. It's huge. I mean, it's exactly what Frank Vogel's talking about with the play of Roy Hibbert. If you can get Rudy Gobert to give you 25 minutes a night as the big in the middle of the lane, you can become an elite defensive team. If we can get 48 minutes a night, and the only way Rudy gets 25 minutes, by the way, is if Favors and Gobert figure out how to play together. That was one of the things I was going to do last night, but I didn't, or this morning, but I didn't get a chance. And I have tomorrow with no new news. I was going to go compare those notes between those two and see what I find in regards to they played briefly together last night and try to see what they were together. I'll probably have that tomorrow. No promises. Riley Lewis. Trey's defense looks much better. What specifically is he doing to make that happen? Frankly, he's giving an effort. He's really trying defensively. Fundamentally, Quinn's worked very hard with him on fundamentals and basics and making sure he's doing details. But as good as he looks, frankly, on a big play last night, he didn't shadow Chris Paul or didn't channel Chris Paul correctly, and Chris Paul flipped around the outside of him, and the whole defensive play broke down because he couldn't get him to the pick. So, there are still times, and Chris Paul's great, right? And there are still times when Trey's going to struggle, but there's no question Trey Burke is playing defense at a much higher level than he did a year ago, he was also very poor last year. Rudy grabbing 20 rebounds last night was awesome, but how about running and beating everyone down the floor? How much impact do these little things have on it? Huge! And Tyson Newman with a question. Huge! I've been saying this entire from the first time and back to Summer League, if you've been listening, as I said, Rudy Gobert's going to run the floor. When Rudy Gobert runs the floor, he's going to play until the other guys. But I think, equal to that point, there was a play last night where Enes Kanter went for a block on a fast break and committed a foul. It wasn't a great foul. I don't care. What I saw was Enes Kanter sprinting the floor down the other way defensively, which I'm not sure I've ever seen out of him. So I thought that was just terrific. All these guys' effort levels, this is what I'm talking about. This is the big issue. Their buy-in right now of trying to execute what's taking place is super. Talent's going to be an issue at some point, guys. I mean, hey, we beat the Clippers last night, but when you really get down to it, and it still gets down to what we talked about a year ago, some of the time, if you go just look at the 10 starters or maybe the 12 guys that are going to play the most, and 6 on each team, or even the 14, and you just do a draft before a night starts, it tells you a lot. Like, Quinn can put in great systems, and these guys can be used, fashion right now that is really allowing them to do things they haven't done and excite them. But when we still get right down to it, on opening night against the Houston Rockets, a game I actually think will win because they play the night before in LA, if you draft those players, you're still drafting Harden first and a Howard second, and maybe Derek third, and Gordon and Trevor Ariza are similar, so let's go Gordon 4, Trevor Ariza 5, right? And now, maybe if our other guys can elevate a little bit, then we get 6, 7, 8. Maybe we can try to do it as a team effort, and you grab a few that way. But 1 and 2, in Dallas on the opening night, they got Dirk as 1 and Monte Ellis is 2, and I can't believe I just said that. And Hayward's 3, and Parsons is 4, and Favors is 5. Like, I don't know, but you still have this. There's still a talent game that's taking place here. From Brock, random question: what would happen if you exchanged a healthy Derrick Rose to Oklahoma City for Russell Westbrook? Oh, I love that question. Can I use that question with Spence and Britton on our new show that starts an hour before every game on Thursday? That's an awesome question. I'm going to my Evernote right now, and I'm also dodging it because, these are good questions today. Britton and Spence is my new file. I love this question. That is going to be cut and pasted and put into this document and going to be thrown over there. I don't know. Boy, can I get an out on that? I like Russell Westbrook. I'm a fan. I'm not a banger on Westbrook. I do think Ron Boone brought up a brilliant point last night on this whole issue with Westbrook and Durant, and that was Durant used 29 possessions a game last year. Next in the league was like 26, and then down to 24. There's only so many possessions you can use in a night. You really can't use 30 possessions is kind of the max. Westbrook was already at 24, so Westbrook's going to add 6 possessions, which are not always the most efficient. There's still another 24 or 25 possessions to be distributed to guys that aren't very good. I think it's deciding that we're just going to think that this Westbrook carries this and carries load, and they're going to be all right. It may be a little bit nutty. Paul, I see your question. I don't know the answer. My guy Wu Hao Phelps. Is that right? I hope so. SI has reported the new TV deal accounted for ads on the jerseys. Have you heard anything about this? It's been inevitable for about 3 or 4 years. We're going to end up with ads on jerseys. The WNBA did it. The D League, I think, has done it. So I think that's probably, it's happening. It seems ridiculous, frankly, but soccer teams do it. So probably shouldn't care about it, but it seems ridiculous to me. Like, what are we going to become? Are we going to become the Vivint Jazz? Right? Like, I don't know. Rodney Hood looked good. If Alec can't hit a 3, I think starting shooting guard is open. No, it's not. Obviously, D is an issue, but passing is equal. I think. Nope. Alex got that. Let's not get too excited. Rodney's not ready for that yet. There's still a long way to go. But I think Rodney can play. All right, Brock, you got like 4 questions in there that are hard. Good question here. My guy, I like Mr. Phelps. Dante was plus 14 in 22 minutes with 8 turnovers. Small sample size. Was there something else he did really well? They played the bench guys predominantly. They played well during periods. I think he does good things. He does create opportunities. And plus minus is a very small sample size. From Courtney, do you think Burks would be better playing the second five instead of the starting lineup? He'd be able to do more with the ball as well as bring some offense off the bench with solid defense, relieve pressure off. So fundamentally, and I'd be curious to talk to Quinn about this, I hate the concept of bringing guys off the bench just because they're going to work better with the bench unit. I think the head coach should just make your substitutions correctly, because there's only really one unit that spends a lot of time on the floor together on a given night, and that's your starting unit, and it should be your best 5 players. And I kind of feel strongly about this, and nobody does it, so maybe I'm wrong. But I really go look at lineups every night, and there's very few that have just 5 guys on it. All right, I'm going to wrap this up because I think it's never ending, and we're at 35 minutes, and frankly, I've really got to make a commitment this year to stay in shape and not become a fat pig by the end of the year. So I'm going to the gym. All right, thank you very much. Practice at 11. I'll have reports afterwards. We'll have a tip-off again for you tomorrow. I'll try to put up some sort of written something on Locked On Jazz. You can follow us at weareutahjazz.com. I'm on Facebook at Locked On Sports and David Locke. I'm on Google+, on the Locked On Sports Google+ community, which everyone does a great job on, and I hope everyone is well. Thank you very much for tuning in. Have a good day and be safe.